At first glance, it's just a passing detail in the sky. Dark clouds gathering, heavy and uncertain, yet edged with a faint glow that almost feels out of place. It's subtle, easy to miss, but once you notice it, it changes how the whole scene looks. That small contrast between darkness and light has inspired one of the most enduring expressions in everyday language. So why is it called a silver lining? How did that image turn into a phrase we use during difficult moments? Why do we say there's something hopeful hidden inside something negative? Today we're exploring that question right here on History of Simple Things. The phrase begins with something very real and very visible. When sunlight hits the edges of thick clouds, especially during sunrise or sunset, it creates a glowing outline that appears bright and silvery. This happens because light is scattered and diffracted around the tiny water droplets that make up the cloud, bending around its edges instead of passing straight through. The result is a bright rim surrounding a darker center. It's a striking contrast that naturally draws attention. Long before people understood the science behind it, they would have noticed how even the darkest clouds could still carry this thin border of light. That simple observation became meaningful because it suggested that darkness was never completely absolute. Even in the heaviest clouds, there was still a trace of brightness, quietly outlining its shape. The wording itself didn't become widely known until it appeared in literature. One of the earliest recorded uses comes from the 17th century in a 1634 masque titled Comus, written by John Milton. In one line, Milton describes a cloud as having a silver lining, directly referencing that glowing edge seen in the sky. At the time, he wasn't trying to create a proverb or a lasting saying. He was simply using vivid imagery to describe a natural scene. However, his choice of words stood out. Readers connected with the image, and it lingered long after the play itself. Over time, that single descriptive phrase began to take on a life of its own, gradually separating from its original context and becoming something people could use more broadly. As the phrase spread, its meaning started to shift. What was once a literal description slowly turned into a metaphor. This is a common pattern in language where physical images are used to express emotional or abstract ideas. The silver lining became a way to talk about hope, especially in difficult situations. A dark cloud already symbolized trouble or uncertainty, so adding a bright edge naturally suggested that something positive could still exist alongside it. People began using the phrase not to describe the sky, but to describe life itself. It became a reminder that situations are rarely completely negative, even if they feel that way at first. The strength of the phrase comes from how naturally the image translates into meaning without needing much explanation. Eventually, the expression expanded into the version most people recognize today. Every cloud has a silver lining. This longer form didn't originate directly from Milton but developed later, becoming especially popular in the 19th century. It appeared in sermons, essays, and everyday speech as a way to encourage resilience. By adding the word every, the phrase becomes more universal. It suggests that this isn't just something that happens occasionally, but something that applies to all difficult situations. No matter how heavy or overwhelming the cloud may seem, there is still the possibility of something positive surrounding it. This version of the phrase helps solidify its role as a source of comfort, turning a poetic image into a widely accepted piece of everyday wisdom. Part of the reason the phrase has lasted for so long is because it aligns closely with how people cope with challenges. When something goes wrong, there's often a natural instinct to search for meaning or some form of reassurance. The idea of a silver lining offers exactly that. It doesn't deny that something is difficult or painful, but it suggests that the situation might still lead to something worthwhile. Psychologically, this kind of thinking is linked to resilience and emotional recovery. Reframing a negative experience in a more balanced way can help people move forward instead of feeling stuck. The phrase works because it's simple, but it captures a complex emotional process. In just 2 words, it expresses the idea that hope and difficulty can exist at the same time. Today, the phrase is used in many different contexts, from casual conversations to more serious situations. However, its meaning can sometimes be misunderstood. When people are told to look for the silver lining too quickly, it can feel dismissive, as if their struggles are being minimized or rushed past. The original idea was never about ignoring the dark cloud itself. Instead, it was about recognizing that both darkness and light can exist together. The phrase loses its impact when it's used as a shortcut to avoid acknowledging real difficulty. Its true meaning is more balanced. It allows space for both hardship and hope, rather than forcing one to replace the other. This shift in how it's used reflects how language can evolve, sometimes drifting away from its original nuance. The phrase silver lining began as a simple observation of sunlight outlining clouds, but over time it grew into something far more meaningful. Through literature, shifting language, and human experience, it became a way to express the possibility of hope within difficulty. Its staying power comes from how accurately it reflects real life, where situations are rarely entirely good or entirely bad. Understanding its origin doesn't just explain the phrase itself, but also why it continues to resonate across generations. It reminds us that perspective plays a powerful role in how we interpret the world, and that even in moments that feel overwhelming, there may still be something quietly worth holding on to. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of simple things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories woven through the smallest details.